Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Live Your Spa Life show. Spa life is a lifestyle that accepts that accomplishment and harmony coexist. The Spa and Spa Life, the SPA, is for seek power always, to be that inner power that you are meant to be in this world. I am so honored to introduce our next special guest today, which is Gina Ruby, who is a business mentor and certified health coach who has spent the last 15 years helping business owners maximize their health, wealth, and relationships on a daily basis. She also is a leading expert on infusing joy in every area of your life. Her Choose Joy mantra, which she came up with in 2002 after a devastating divorce, came in handy when she was diagnosed with stage 3 triple negative breast cancer in 2018 and went through chemo and a mastectomy. No matter what the challenge, Gina has stayed faithful and committed to her Choose Joy mantra and created her own signature masterclass, Joy is an Inside Job, 4 stepping stones to making it authentic. Joy is truly a choice through the good, the bad, and the ugly. Her parents are her lifelong heroes. Her husband and stepdaughter are the light of her life. And each day, Gina is reminded that it's not about the circumstance, it's about the attitude of gratitude in the circumstance. The good news is choosing joy is possible for every single person. Gina, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Diane. And I'm so excited to be here with you and get to chat for the next few minutes.
Absolutely. I love this. And I love your mantra about choose joy. And for those of you who are listening and maybe not looking at the video, Gina has this beautiful heart design behind her that says choose joy. It's in her space. It's something that she lives and breathes with. And I'd love to start with, how is it amongst challenging situations? And for those who are, remembering 2020 when things felt pretty locked down and people felt like, choices were a little crazy and maybe more challenges than ever. How is it when people are facing the challenges and you have faced many on your own? How do you continue to choose joy amongst challenge?
That is a great question because it really doesn't make sense to choose joy and be cheerful when we're sad, we're mad, we're frustrated, depressed, discouraged. And when I came up with this wonderful mantra in 2002, it was a devastating divorce. It was very scandalous, and the information was in the paper and the radio and the newspaper, and I kind of fed into the victim thing and like, why me? Poor me! I wasn't good enough, rich enough, smart enough, pretty enough, and I lived in Victimville for about 2 months. And then and I have a strong faith in God, and I wasn't blaming God. I just was like, what did I do to deserve this? And in the middle of the night, one night, it was like God just clearly spoke into my ear. You are enough. You're actually more than enough. So you can continue to have a pity party, or you can choose joy. And then I realized, what? I have options? Like I can actually choose joy when I'm sad or discouraged. And we do. And it is like a muscle we have to learn to work out. And so remember, God said, just find one thing to be joyful about tomorrow. And when tomorrow came, I was like, wow, I'm grateful that I'm healthy. I'm grateful that I have family support. I'm grateful that I can still work. And all that, gratitude is the road to joy. And I realized I have a whole lot that I can be so grateful for and joyful for while I'm navigating this weird road that I got to get through and get to the other side of. So It's a choice. It's automatic when things are great, but it's a conscious choice when, crap hits the fan. And so as I worked that muscle more and more and more, it just became second nature. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, stage 3C, I was millimeters away from stage 4. I thought, okay, I'm not going to like wallow in pity and why me? I'm super healthy. Why did I get it? I'm just going to choose joy and, find a way to get to the other side of this with proactive solutions and right mindset and really helping other people, whether it's business or health or relationships. You got to have the support and help of other people too. So it's a conscious choice through the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I love this because when we talk about conscious choice, it's not like, oh my God, everything's happening to me and I have no choice and I have to lay there and be a victim. And I love that distinction where it was also choice to not be a victim. Because one of the things I love to talk about is that, we all have victim experiences, right? Where there's times where we either feel like it or things don't feel fair or things that happen, but we can decide, okay, that's an experience, or we can decide to live as a victim where we're in that energy going forward. And that is a real pivotal point when we realize that that is a conscious choice and that we can decide to do something different. And I also love, as you really mentor people and also within your own life about choosing to be happy and healthy and wealthy and what that looks like in terms of doing the things that you need to do on a daily basis. So I'd love for you to talk about just having some consistency about, what it is that you're doing and commitment to the things that you say that you want to do.
Yep. The first, I mean, we hear it all the time. You got to have a vision. What is your vision? And what's your vision board? What's on your vision board? But if you don't know where you want to go, then you're just going to be kind of like swiveling all over the map. And so really knowing where you want to go, who you want to be, what do you want to do? And then that kind of goes to a deeper level of what's your joy, what's your passion, what are your strengths, and start to mold that into what you love doing. And do people need that help? And then create a vision and then create a roadmap to it. And a lot of people have their SMART goals, but really the secret sauce is accountability. So whether it's accountability to a mentor, accountability to a coach, life coach, a business coach, that's where things really start getting done. And, because I like doing lots of things and I can really become the best squirrel in the world. But I go back to what's my vision, what's my mission, and how do I want to help people transform their lives? And everything is a choice, not just joy is a choice, but discipline is a choice. Yes. Healthy living is a choice. And when people start realizing they're making choices on a daily basis, they're either good choices or poor choices. And why not make more good choices?
Right. I really do love that because I think it's the habits and rituals and things that we create in our life really make a difference on how we're designing our life versus just living by default. And so I'd love for you to share, what are some of the things that you do to consciously create the life that you want to live?
So that's a great question. I made a list because when I talk about joy, I made five ways to infuse joy in your day. And it's really 5 ways to infuse gratitude, discipline, your mission. And so I'd love to share those right now. Can I?
Yes, please do.
Because a lot of times people go, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, or I don't have the ability to do whatever their vision and their passion is. And really, we don't need a lot of money to live our purpose. We need to integrate time, but it's time that's focused. And so the first one is to connect. I connect with people every day. And in a COVID year where we were told to isolate for how many months and still now kind of isolate from people, we got to get creative on connecting, because isolation is the death of productivity, the death of joy. And I don't want to kill those things. So now we just got to think outside the box. So I loved all like the Zoom just went cray cray. Like you and I were doing Zoom before it was a thing. And now grandparents are doing it, connecting with their grandkiddos. So connecting with people is critical, and building relationships. So whether it's for business and building relationships or for personal, need. So connecting and building relationships and not isolating.
Right. I love when you talk about not isolating, because, at a time where people, I think, over isolated, where, this is where suicide rates were really high, domestic violence were high. There were a lot of things where people were really depressed because we are social creatures. And I love the term somebody coined about who is your quarantine? Like, who is the team that you've just decided, like, they're your safe people, whether that's your family or your close friends. I know some people who on their block, they said, okay, these are the people we're going to interact with with, because we crave touch, we crave connection, and I even had friends that, let people choose deciding on what kind of distance they wanted to keep, and, seeing where they were at with their own health. But I had a friend that had like a backyard get together where she spaced things out and people could sit wherever they wanted to be, because being in the outdoors and being able to connect, I mean, we got to be really creative about what really works. And breathing in fresh air is part of our God-given right to be able to do that. So I love about getting creative about finding ways to connect. So
yes. And it fills a void that God put in us to be social, and creativity happens when we get together with other people. That's where like the brain's just like ideas and, hey, yeah, let's do that. And that's just all been like, squashed for a while. So the rituals I do is, definitely connect. The second one is practice gratitude. And the easiest way to do that, whether things are going great or people are discouraged, is before your feet hit the floor in the morning, think of 3 things you're grateful for. So laying in bed, what are 3 things I'm grateful for? And it sets the intention for the day. It sets it for a much better trajectory and outcome than if we're just like winging it and what am I going to do today?
Yeah.
So gratitude.
Gina, I'd love to talk a little bit more about gratitude as far as what you come up with, because I know sometimes a lot of people feel, unless they come up with like, I'm grateful for the whole world or like some big things. And I remember someone had shared with me that think about like the little things that you're grateful for. And when you're doing gratitude, like if you're doing it on a daily basis, about what is it that you're grateful for that's happened in the last 24 hours. So you get really clear on what's happening in your space, who you're spending time with. And, sometimes it's just about being able to be grateful for, flowers growing in your backyard. And so it's really, what are those small things that add up to be the big things about in your life? So I'd love for you to share a little bit more about how you choose what you're grateful for and what you look for, and maybe some tips on that.
Yeah, sometimes you can, like, journaling it is great. So when you're having a bad day, you can go back and read all those things that you were grateful for. But once in a while, I do a topic. Like, what am I grateful for about my health, especially going through cancer? I was getting chemotherapy and then a mastectomy. And, I talk to other people with cancer and they're really bummed out. And I thought, you know what, there's always someone worse off than me. So who's worse off than me, and how can I pray for them, first of all? And that's one of my rituals, is getting outside of ourselves and helping others. When we, I was scared. I wasn't afraid to die, but I didn't want to like suffer, and there's no guarantees. And so I just thought, who's worse off than me? How can I help them? How can I pray for them? And know that, some people they would gladly change places with me with what's going on in their world. And so, so sometimes health topics, or just everyday blessings that we have. The other day, my husband and I were like, because I've traveled all over the world. I've been to Africa and Bolivia and been in tents where there's no plumbing. I'm so grateful for hot water, for running water, for toilets, for, the kitchen sink that I can do dishes. I mean, we take so much for granted, and they're so like, if we just, and the other day I'm like, who invented zippers and buttons? Because that is such a great invention. Like, we can just take it down to the minutia of detail of how blessed we are every single day, even when we're rejected or abandoned or going through health stuff or going through financial crisis. There are a lot of people going through financial crisis this year. And got to hang on through the tsunami and get to the other side and think, what is going well? Like, we have to think what's going well, because the list of what's not going well could be a really long list.
Yes.
So
Definitely.
sometimes topics, but I like what in the last 24 hours am I grateful for? We shouldn't let every minute and every day just go by without really reflecting on how good we really do have it compared to other people in the world. I met with some friends on Friday night. They do mission work all over the world. And they have been to places in Russia and places in Africa where people are literally starving to death, like skin and bones. And, sometimes when we get hungry, we're like, I'm so starving. I'm like, oh my gosh.
You have no idea.
No, we are not starving. We're just a little hypoglycemic. So just having food, at a grocery store, we can buy food and water. That's, sometimes when we're going through yuck, we got to take it down to the daily blessings we have. Yeah. So that's, practicing gratitude, which leads me to prayer and meditation. We have to slow down, whether, things are going great or things are going horribly. prayer, I always say, take it to God, just take it straight up to God. And he wants to listen to us. So prayer is conversation, and meditation is really being quiet and listening to, what we need to do for ourselves, and who can we help, and just slowing down and focusing on what our purpose is, rather than living in, frenzy and confusion and disappointment.
Right. Gina, I want to interject a little bit here about, you and I both have a foundation of God being very important in our lives, and, prayer, this offering up to God, and sometimes taking the time to have that silence and to be able to listen to the messages. And I know that people hear messages from God in many different ways, whether it's, through, writing and getting messages that way, or just that quiet time. Sometimes being out in nature, we'll hear messages from God. How did things change in your relationship with God going through some of your deepest challenges?
Another great question. So I had cancer 2 years ago, and then my brother had stage 3 melanoma last year. So it was, it's been a doozy of a couple years for my family and I, and we're like, we're gonna, God's gonna heal it, and we're gonna do holistic with Western, just like I did, and gonna get through this. And sad to say for me, he passed away a few months after he was diagnosed. And that was a shocker to all of us, because he was a very healthy person. He was one of my best friends. And so as difficult as my year was, last year was the hardest, saddest year of my life. And I was like, I know what I got to do. I got to choose joy. And as sad as I am, my brother's in heaven. So he's in paradise. He's the one that, got the best blessing of all.
He won.
Yeah, but the rest of us, he didn't leave a hole in our heart. He left a chasm, because he was such an amazing human being. And I thought, okay, we can't control things that we can't control. And what I can control is my attitude. I cried and cried, and I prayed, and it's not that God didn't answer my prayer. He just answered it in a different way. And I know that, we got to live for the living, and I know my brother would want us to continue on. So I found ways to bring joy to, to continue his legacy of joy. And that's where I had to go outside of myself, because one of my other rituals is serving others and helping others in when we are sad. And because there's always going to be someone, like I said, sadder or more discouraged than us. And we just got to show up in their life, whether it's an elderly person who can't go grocery shopping or clean up their yard, or all these parents who have kids back home 24/7.
Right.
They would love someone to come and read them a story, or go play with them in the backyard, social distancing, or do a Zoom game, something where I just, when I am going through my hardest, darkest days, rise above, and what is my purpose? What is my passion? And how can I help others? And I always say sadness and joy can coexist. I didn't think that was true until I had to live it,
Right.
where I can be sad, and people can even be mad. They can be mad and choose joy. They can be depressed and choose joy. It's just, eventually that's a muscle that's gonna get stronger and stronger, and help minimize the stuff in their life.
Right.
So
right.
I was on my knees to the Lord, and I was trying to bring smiles to other people, so that when that happens, it brings a smile to me.
Right. It's amazing, the human spirit that can have like the extreme of emotion within the same moment. I remember earlier this year at my brother-in-law's funeral, where he was such a funny guy. Like, everyone remembered him by his jokes. And so here is this sad time for my sister and her sons. But there were so much laughter, because that's what people remembered most about him. And so emotions have such a huge impact on us, and how we respond to them, and how we look at them. And, speaking of emotions, one of the things, especially on the road as an entrepreneur, that can come up is fear. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how it is that you address fear, and how you come through the other side. And I'd love you to share with some of the, what some people would say crazy things that you've done to help yourself just fortify yourself through fear.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing about fear and worry is most of the time it doesn't happen. So we invest all this energy and time on, oh God, what up? So what I do with my clients, I go, let's go to worst case scenario. One of my friends, he has a friend that was just diagnosed with cancer, and he's like, what if she dies? I'm like, okay, well, let's go to worst case scenario. What if she does die? People die from cancer every day. My brother did. That's going to be really sad. And what would you do with her passing? How do you want to create her legacy to carry on? But that's worst case scenario. What's best case scenario? Best case scenario, she lives. Okay, cool. So do we want to focus on all the days that she's alive, whether she lives another 2 days or another 30 years, and focus on how you want to spend time with that friend? So worst case scenario, and then best case scenario. And then typically life happens right in the middle. So if we're going through a financial challenge and, oh gosh, I'm going to lose all my money and how am I going to feed my kids? Well, best case scenario is you win the lottery. Okay, somewhere in the middle, you're going to find help. People are going to help you. You got to voice your help, your needs, so that people can help you. So that's one way I handle fear, because we do worst case, best case. Typically, we're going to be okay. There is a safety net there. The other one is prayer. I mean, there are circumstances in life that we can't control, and I like to take it just to the feet of the Lord and say, I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. Please help me. Because I always say I learned 5 valuable lessons from the hundreds of dollars of therapy, which my husband laughs because, I did remarry, by the way. The Lord brought me an amazing man. But usually people spend like thousands of dollars in therapy. I'm super frugal. I'm like a fast tracker and overachiever. Like, what do I need to learn to get over my sadness, to get back on track? So I spent, hundreds of dollars on therapy. And my therapist said there's 5 things you can control. So the good news for the control freaks out there are 5 things you can control. You can control what you do, what you say, what you think, how you feel, and how you respond. So I'm like, great. Everything else, I can't control what other people do, say, think, feel, respond. I can't control employees. I can't control family. I can't control friends. I can only control what I do, say, think, feel, and respond. And that's a lot of control. And so that's the other thing I do in fear is, what can I do that's in my control to make the situation better? I just got off the phone with a client right before this, and it's mayhem all over the country with businesses, and her hands are tied because there's a lot of government hoops that she has to jump through for her business. But I'm like, okay, what can you control? There are 3 things you can do right now to get clients that the government doesn't have any say in, because she does have an umbrella of what she does. And so focus on what you can do, not what you can't do. And Property Brothers, have you ever seen Property Brothers? Those two twin brothers, they build houses together.
Oh, yes.
Well, one wanted to be an actor. He went to LA and flopped. And he told his dad, like, I can't be an actor. And his dad said, I don't want to hear why you can't. Write down 10 reasons why you can. I want to hear the 10 reasons why you can. So this one brother, he's a realtor. Lo and behold, he writes a show about a brother that's a realtor. His twin is a contractor. They buy houses, they flip them, and then they put it on TV. It's quite entertaining. So he actually he's an actor now. I mean, he's a real life actor, but his dad's wisdom was, why can it work? Right. So that helps diffuse fear. It helps diffuse the worry and gets you back on track. Owning, empowering your life rather than deflating.
Yes, definitely. Well, speaking of empowering, one of the things I love to, ask my guests I have on this show, speaking of what we have control of, we actually feel differently in our bedroom versus our office versus our kitchen. So what is your favorite room in your home and why?
Definitely not the kitchen. I'm so kitchen challenged. I mean, and I'm 57 now. Every decade I thought at 30, I'm going to learn to cook and be super clean and Betty Crocker. And then that didn't happen. Then 40. And when I hit 50, I'm like, that ship has sailed and I am never going to be able to do that. So I like our living room and my little office here. It's a nice little oasis. But I have to say, if it's not our house, we do have a boat, and my husband and I we love going down to Harbor Island and just sit on our boat, and even if we don't take it out, just the rocking of the waves and the fresh air is so soothing and so calming, and we really do disconnect from all work there. It's like the no work zone. So I would say our boat, because our house is little. And so we figure our boat is our little tiny condo on the water. And we love going down there. And
I
we have
love
to have you on it. So we need to get a weekend to have you on it.
Definitely. We would love to join you on that.
Yeah.
Now that's a first that someone has said their favorite room in their home is their boat. So that's an extension of their home, right? So we can be creative on whatever that looks like. And
Yeah.
it makes a difference about what it is that we have in our space and just how our experience of that is. And so one of the things I'd also like to talk about is, when people are on their entrepreneurial journey, they look at you and some of the conversations we have, and it's like, oh, she's so successful and all these things have happened, but they don't always hear the backstory of what were some of the challenges and what were some of the disempowering moments along that way that you learned something from and that you were empowered on the other end. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. And I thought of something because when you and I, chatted last week and I was kind of thinking through these questions, there was something, I didn't think about this till later, but when I was 25, I traveled all over the world on a music group. And the leader of that was I'm just going to say it, he was a horrible human being, verbally and emotionally. There's physical abuse, there's sexual abuse, but verbal and emotional abuse is a doozy. And that man, and I had the closing finale solo, and I've always been, I'm not a performer, I just was gifted musically. And so it was a lot for me to stand up in front of 3,000 people and sing a solo every night for, 4 months. But for some reason, he felt like he had to keep tearing me down and tearing me down. He was very militant. And, and now I know it's from his childhood. His dad was a Marine, and that's how they, instead of positive reinforcement, it was negative reinforcement.
Right.
And that whole summer, I was so defeated and so deflated. And I went past sad to numb. And numb is a very dangerous place to be because you don't feel happy or sad or mad. I felt nothing. I just closed off my emotions because I was tired of being beaten down verbally. And I never really thought verbal abuse was a thing. I'm like, come on, people, sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never hurt you. And it's so wrong. It's crazy how it can affect you over time. And so I had to really process that because I grew up in a family where you can do anything and we believe in you. Yeah. So that was a good learning lesson at 25 years old, to never allow that to happen to me again. If I feel like I'm so sad and upset that I'm starting to numb myself, red flag, get some help. And so even going through that divorce, which crushed me, and then, going through cancer, which it could lead to death, I thought, I'm not going to numb out. I have to, God gives us emotions and he even gives us grief. It's a cleansing process. And so I have a big heart for people that are verbally and emotionally abused because it doesn't leave marks, but they need help just as much as the other person does who has that effect.
Yeah.
So huge life lesson for me.
Yeah. I so appreciate that distinction with the word numb, because you can just viscerally feel that. And when you're in that place, which is kind of ironic, it's like you can feel that, but yet there's no feeling. Yeah. And that can be a really scary place. And, one of my passions is helping, rescue trafficked children. And, I've been talking to a lot of people around that path and about them not sharing what's happening in their life, and, that place of shame and that place of numbing out and not being able to speak out, and the eroding of your self-confidence. And this is such an important topic to talk about, particularly for female entrepreneurs, because if you have things that happen where somebody referred to it as chinks in your armor, where you don't feel good enough or your self-esteem is low, these are recipes to really erode yourself, to not stand up into your brilliance and really look at why you are here and what you're up to. And prayer can be definitely a resolve in that and going on, being gratitude. I love some of the things that we've talked about here. And it's so important for women in particularly to utilize these tools to build ourselves up. And if you've got toxic people that are around you, this is where you really want to reach out to have a positive mentor, have a positive friend, really, even if it's one positive person that you have in your life, it's critical for you to have that, because if we're in just the negative version of that all the time, that is a slippery slope as far as where you can go and what that looks like. And so that's one of the reasons, you know, in this year, the whole 2021 focus that we're looking at is how are we being a force for good? Like, what is it that we're doing in the world that ripples out and has that? So Gina, I would love for you to share how you are being a force for good in the world.
Oh, I love your questions. They're so amazing. I always say, you know, recognize what's going on in your reality, you know, family, friends, work, neighborhood, and then making a conscious decision to choose joy, choose discipline with what you do, and pay it forward. Paying it forward is one of the most, you know, amazing exponential blessings that we can do in our world. And it's just having your eyes wide open. And I even ask the Lord every day, like, who do you want me to help today? Because there's a lot of people that need help. And I don't want to have somebody come into my life and I didn't recognize that that was a person that I needed to, whether it's a phone call or an encouraging note or a meal or an errand. It's just having our eyes wide open and looking for people that we can help. It was a game changer for 2018 for, you know, my cancer, my brother's cancer this year. And then when COVID hit, I'm like, okay, you know, it was cancer, COVID. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm living in weird worlds here for a while, and I'm not going to waste the time that God has given me on a daily basis. So I like to pay it forward in however way I can. And I do want to mention, I know because time's going by, I wanted to talk about how important it is to stay healthy, eat healthy, and exercise. I know it's just like, you know, mind numbing. People hear this all the time, but COVID was a doozy. I gained 10 pounds over COVID. True confessions. Oh, shut down. It must mean Oreos and chips and salsa and 10 hours of Netflix every day. So I bought into that weird, you know, twilight zone of COVID. And then I realized, wow, you know, I'm not perfect either. And so I realized I felt like crud, and I got back on my, you know, my healthy, authentic self and lost the weight. I'm exercising, I ballroom dance, I eat healthy, and we feel so much better, especially going through stressful times, to eat healthy, drink water, and move. And find a friend, because it's not easy to do by yourselves. You know, I'll do it tomorrow, but find a friend or have a dog that you got to walk. And
accountability is key.
Yeah. This is the one vehicle we take everywhere in life, and why not treat it the best we can? So health and wellness is huge on that too.
I love that. Well, and I know, Gina, that our listeners are going to want to stay in contact with you, and how can they do that?
Yes. So you can find me on social media everywhere. Gina Ruby on Facebook. It's Gina Ruby Putrabaugh, my husband's last name. It's a mouthful. So I just usually, you know, if you Google Gina Ruby, you'll find me. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and then email me ginaruby1@gmail.com. And then if you post, I do have my health and wellness websites, pursuehealth.optavia.com. And I don't know if you're going to put that in the verbiage or not. That's kind of a long.
We will. We'll have all that in the show notes.
Yeah. But I love helping people get healthy with their health. I love helping people get healthy with their business, with their relationships. They all integrate. And so as you know, as we have healthy body, healthy mind, healthy finances, healthy relationship, it really creates the life we love, and not just feeling stuck in a life that we feel like we have no control in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Gina, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. It's been so fun to just talk with your longevity of wisdom and everything that you're up to, and so appreciate you.
Thank you. This was such a delight.
Thank you. And thank you to our listeners. We so appreciate you being here. It so helps us for you to be part of the community. We would love your 5-star rating, as well as subscribing and sharing. When you share, you are part of getting positive messages out into the world. And no matter what platform you're on, please put in some comments, like what questions do you have? What ahas did you learn here? And make sure that you tag both myself and Gina, because we'd love to answer any questions that you have. We want you to be part of this community, to have support that you need. So until we connect again, live your spa life. Bye for now.